So we're just going to go through a very basic workshop that's going to specifically cover one of the Outreach Board's goals. The Outreach Board is sort of a newer thing that we implemented in October with the reorganization of the congregational leadership. I was asked if I was interested in this, and I am, and because it's something I'm passionate about. So for those of you that don't know me, I'm Nicole Haynes. I am a Wyoming transplant. So I was born and raised in Wyoming, went to college there, and then moved out here before law school, and I've been in Charlotte since 2011. I started community service and volunteer projects when I was in Girl Scouts in elementary school, and I've sort of been roped into various things ever since, and it's something that I have a passion for and that I'm excited to share with you and with the congregation, and with the hopes that we can get the folks at Ascension more involved in the community. So we're here today because the Outreach Board has a mission, and it's to serve the world in Jesus' name. We've done a lot of talking about what is Ascension and what do we hope to be and what is our plan, and I think one of the phrases that's bounced around a lot is to be a faithful, neighborhood church, and a way for us to do that is to be more involved in the community. We have a lot of folks here who have talents, gifts, ideas, skills that we can put to use in the community, and with that benefit the members who are able to share in their passion and benefit the community. So why outreach? We have a lot of things that we do here at Ascension, like the soup kitchen. So it works great. It's a miracle every week when that happens. We have a ton of volunteers from the church and the community who show up for that, and it's something we're really comfortable doing because it's here and it's on our campus and it's a little bit more accessible for us. But in our discussions with outreach and with leadership, we think that it might be a good idea to go out of the church and go out into the community and do some more ministry-based activities there. It's going to be uncomfortable because we might not be used to it, but Jesus talks a lot about putting ourselves in uncomfortable situations, and he'll lead us through that and give us the words and guidance to accomplish those goals. So these are the 3 outreach goals. The first one is to find members to host 6 to 12 outreach events. That's what today focuses on. And just for your reference, we have the 2 other goals about a Bible study that's sort of going to be a coffee talk with Jesus in the mornings, and then we're also working on investigating whether or not Ascension is a good place for a tutoring program. But today we're just going to primarily focus on number 1. So as I briefly mentioned, this goal is really twofold. So if we have a member or somebody who attends church and they have a passion for service and they have an organization that they really love to volunteer with and to work with, then it gives us the opportunity to support them and their passion by supporting a service project that partners with their organization. And then number 2, we also have the benefit of serving the community when we're doing that. So it's really an opportunity to serve in 2 different ways, 2 birds with 1 stone. An example is I have an organization I volunteer with a lot. It's called Bright Blessings. I'll cover it a little bit later. It's based out of Monroe, and what they do is they provide service and care packages for children in the Charlotte-Mecklenburg school system. So they have a partnership with the schools, and these are homeless children or people who have unstable housing, so housing instability. And they provide birthday care packages, school care packages. When the weather gets cold, they provide blankets because these blankets might be the only thing the children have to lay their head on when they're sleeping in the backseat of a car. And they have a great facility in Matthews where you can go. They have all of the donations already there. You show up with a group of people, you make care packages at their facility, and then they distribute them. So that's just one example of a way that I could set up an event and work with Bright Blessings, invite the congregation, invite some of my other friends, invite the community members. So it's supporting me because it's something I'm passionate about, and it's also supporting the community. So this is sort of a how-to, all right? This sounds great. How do we do it? The first thing we'll need to do is identify a need, which sounds kind of cheesy, but sometimes people really don't know where to start. And then once you see all these different needs, you're going to pick your passion. A better phrasing of this would be to pick your God-given passion, what speaks to you, what's in your heart. Then you identify organizations that serve your passion and serve the community. polling your people. You're going to poll your friends, your family, your congregation, community members, and you're going to see if they share in the same passion. It doesn't serve us or anyone else if one person has a really strong desire to work with one organization, but if no one else is in the same boat, then it's not going to be a successful service project. So we have to find common ground with what people are interested in so we can get a good group of folks to go out. The next step would be to contact the organization. Most of these websites have a volunteer tab. They have a questions tab. You can email them and say, hey, I'm interested in a service project and I would like to set this up. How do we do this? And they are so excited to have people who are interested in what they do that they'll go out of their way to accommodate your group. They'll walk you through the whole process. The next step is just to coordinate with the church. We want to make sure that we don't have something else big going on that day that would divide people's time. For instance, we have the Easter season coming up. We're not going to want to hold the service event the week of Easter because everyone's going to be burned out, everyone else is busy, and their time lies elsewhere. Step 7 is just to advertise in the bulletin, Facebook, word of mouth. If you have an HOA in your home neighborhood that you think people might be interested in one of these service events, then you can advertise through the HOA. We have a lot of apartment complexes. I heard some of the discussion before we got started that we have so many new tenants in the area right around Ascension, and we could work through their administrative offices to see if they would like to send out an email blast. We'd really like to make this a community partnership so that we have folks in the immediate area that are working with us on these service projects. There are a ton of folks who are recent college graduates, young professionals. They might have a heart for service. They might like to volunteer. We hear a lot about millennials, and being bleeding hearts is one of the taglines that they assign to that generation. And with that, we can sort of capitalize on that and provide them an opportunity to serve because they might be in the same boat that we are. Where do we start? How do I get started with this? And we can just sort of hold their hand and lead them through it. And then the last part is just serving the community. So we have an opportunity to go and do something that helps folks, and we can watch the Holy Spirit work while we do that. So I'm going to start with steps 1 through 3, and we're going to get into a little more detail with what identifying a need and picking your passion would look like. I'm going to have some statistics. I pulled them offline, take them for what they're worth. I think they give us a general idea of what some of the needs are. And then I'm also going to refer to some of the organizations that I found. Some I have personal experience with, others, again, I just found online, but I think they might shed a different light in a non-traditional way, just to get your wheels turning. It's not an endorsement of anything, so if you go, oh my goodness, that's not a great one, I apologize. Or if you have a positive experience, that's great as well, but it's just for illustration purposes. So we identify a need. We can look around, you can see a lot of things in your neighborhood, you see a lot of things on your drive to work. Anytime you open the internet and the news pops up, or you open Facebook and you see something, there are tons of needs out there. The old-fashioned saying would be, open a newspaper, but how many people actually get a print newspaper delivered anymore, I'm not sure, because everything's electronic. But we have so much information at our fingertips every day, and it's really easy to see a news story and to identify that there might be a need there and an opportunity to serve. So one example of a need is homelessness. It's a really common one. So there are about 1,500 families in Mecklenburg County that experience homelessness. The one statistic said over 4,000 CMS school children also have housing instability. That would partner back to the Bright Blessings organization that I mentioned earlier. And then 10% of the homeless are veterans. So we have 3 or 4 different service opportunities here. You can specifically target and aim to serve somebody who is homeless, or you can aim to serve school children who are also experiencing homelessness, or a homeless veterans. A lot of people are very passionate about our veterans and our military, and that gives them an opportunity to support that population. So is this your God-given passion? If you feel that twinge in your heart, you say, yes, I'd really like to serve this community, or hey, I already know someone who's doing that, I could place a phone call to them. That might be something to think more about. If it is your passion, a quick Google search will turn up a lot of options. So Bright Blessings is out of Matthews. As I mentioned, they serve and support the homeless children. They do care packages, birthdays, and different collaborations. They also do something for young expecting mothers, which is sort of bless a baby shower, and they hold a large baby shower for that. The Samaritan House in Charlotte, I don't know if anyone's familiar with what they do, but it's a recuperative care place for people who are homeless and had a medical emergency, which is, I mean, you can only imagine homelessness is one bag of tricks plus a medical emergency. I've had to go to the emergency room in the last 6 months. It's terrifying, and I have a hard time navigating that, and I don't have those other stressors in my life. So that's an organization that serves those sorts of folks. And then the Homelessness Prevention Project, one of our members, Keith Dennis, is that name? He does a lot of work with them, and he had hoped to be here but then had a conflict. It's developed by Legal Aid of North Carolina. You don't need to be an attorney to do it. They have a quick seminar where they sort of train you what to do, but they help tenants and other people in the community who are facing eviction. So they have housing, and then they're about to lose their housing. They do some crisis management stuff, but it's something that he asked that I speak about, and I think it's a great organization as well. So those are just 3 examples about how you could serve the homeless population. The next one is hunger. We take for granted that we can eat every day, and a lot of people don't have that opportunity. So 25% North Carolina children under 18 are food insecure on a regular basis. So 1 out of every 4 children in North Carolina are hungry. Imagine trying to go to school and your belly's rumbling, and you don't know where your next meal is going to come from, and trying to focus and get the most out of your education, but you're hungry. Over 80% of North Carolina households that receive food assistance don't know where their next meal is coming from. So you were able to scrape it together one night, but what about tomorrow morning? So there are organizations that help those people. So is this your God-given passion? Does this tug at your heartstrings? Is this something that you would like to act on and serve? If it is, there are some options for that. So Loaves and Fishes is a popular one. They provide groceries for neighbors and different pantries in Mecklenburg County. Second Harvest Food Bank feeds children, seniors, families, and pets. I'm a dog lover. I like rescue. I'm a volunteer with the rescue. So I thought it was neat that they also focused on pets, because sometimes pets are your family or pets are the only children you have. So they also extend it to feeding not only the humans, but also the pets in the household. The Lunch Project is another one that I'm personally familiar with, and it's just another idea about hunger. They're local in Charlotte. They created a program in Tanzania for, I think, 3 different schools now, where they did a locally sourced meal every day, started from scratch. The moms prepare the food comes from local markets, and they feed 3 different schools lunch every day. The way that they connect that back to Charlotte is they do global empathy education in the Charlotte-Mecklenburg school systems. So they're teaching elementary school students, middle school students about service, about raising money, and about empathy, cross international empathy, and how you can identify with someone who's experiencing something completely different. So I just thought that was a different take that I wanted to illustrate. It's not just your food banks or your soup kitchens or things like that that would help the hungry, that there are other options. Education is another need. Without education, your future is undetermined, and you're going to have a harder time getting yourself into a better situation. Only 40% of 3rd graders in Mecklenburg County are reading on a grade level. It's one of the statistics. That, it sort of speaks for itself, but that's something that we could work on improving. 2/3 of adults who experience homelessness have not received a high school diploma or completed their GED, and that's sort of a direct correlation between education and something that you might struggle with later on in life. So is this your passion? Is education something that you're familiar with? Have you tutored folks before? I know that Mike volunteers his time and he reads with some of the school children. So those are all options. So if it's your passion, the Harvest Center offers job readiness and life skills to adults who to help them make the transition to self-sufficiency. So that's sort of targeting an older population, not just school children, that you can help with education. A Child's Place works to erase the impact of homelessness on children. And then in Charlotte, Reading Partners is when you can volunteer to work one-on-one with students who struggle with reading. And these are all websites that you can go to. There's a drop-down menu, how can I help? And then it'll give you a step-by-step guide on how to volunteer. And you would do that, make the initial inquiry, and then work on getting a group of folks together. Another need is domestic violence. It's not fun to think about, but it happens to a lot of people. So 25% of women and almost 8% of men are victims of intimate partner violence. 15% of all violent crime stems from intimate partner violence. 5 million children witness domestic violence every year. And we hear a lot about the domestic violence cycle, so those 5 million children are 3 times more likely in adulthood to repeat that cycle, either as a victim or as an aggressor. Those are some scary statistics, not something that we want to think about right away on a Saturday morning, but if that's your passion and that tugs at you and you say, this is something that I would like to help with, then that might be an opportunity for a service project. There are a lot of organizations in our area that do that. Safe Alliance has a lot of different options. They have a shelter, and they also do crisis management, and they have a legal aspect as well. I've volunteered with them through providing assistance legally. Hope for Domestic Violence provides wardrobes, something you might not think of. If you have a crisis at home and you need to leave, you may not bring your clothes with you because it's a life or death situation and you need to evacuate immediately. So they provide wardrobes, food, and other transportation. They also have a 12-month program where they do continuing service, counseling, crisis management, and getting people back on their feet. It originally started in Tennessee, but they branched out to North Carolina, so that's another option. Turning Point in Monroe, it looks like they focus more on adult and teen resources, also of course entire families, and they aim to end the domestic abuse cycle and provide all of the other aspects such as advocacy, safety, shelter, and those sorts of things. Other needs that I didn't dive into detail but might tug at your heartstrings: elderly assistance and support. There are a lot of homes for the elderly, or if you partner with a rescue and you really like dogs, and there are a lot of rescues that will take puppies to the nursing home for an afternoon and just enjoy spending time with people and seeing some smiles light up. Those are still service projects. It doesn't take money, it doesn't take a lot of time, it doesn't take manual labor, and who doesn't love to cuddle a puppy? Leadership, experience, and education. I think there's an organization in Charlotte called Girl Talk, and they target teens who might want leadership and other experience, and I think they also, it's either them or another organization that provides sort of some prom or homecoming dance support and the dresses and things like that. So there's a lot going back and forth there that would just help an at-risk population with their everyday life. Medical assistance and research. Everyone's familiar with the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge, raise a ton of money. There are other walks and service projects that target medical research or a specific disease that you may or may not be passionate about. Unemployment and job readiness assistance. There are a lot of organizations that help people get jobs. Veterans assistance, as I mentioned before, military and veterans are a passion for America. We're very patriotic, and those people have served us, and it would be nice to be able to serve them. Public servants, that's another population that doesn't receive the appreciation for the work that they do. So police officers, firefighters, maybe you're related to one, maybe you live next door to one, but it sure would be nice to be able to serve them. We do a little bit of that here with the snacks for the police precinct in our immediate area, but I know that we've had a little bit of trouble delivering those items. People are willing to bring them to church, but no one's willing to bring them from the church to the police station to give those to the officers. So just maybe linking up some of those missing dots right now. Crime victim support, on the same track as domestic violence. There are a lot of organizations. So if any of these give you a ping or a light bulb and that fits your God-given passion, that might be an area for a service project. So the remaining steps, so this sort of covered steps 1 through 3. So if we pick back up at step 4, and that's sort of the poll your people. The way that I would do this and the way that I've done it with Bright Blessings, sometimes an example helps, is I have some friends who are Rotarians. Rotary does a good job with service projects like this. They have, their weekly meetings, but then they will link up with an organization and have a service project where they all go on a Saturday and 12 people show up and they do an active service. So I always invite my Rotary friends because they're always interested in attending and participating in those sorts of activities. And then I will ping my mother-in-law and my other best friend, and I will ask people at church. And I've had groups of 10 or 12 people that will show up at Bright Blessings, and we wrap care packages. And that's just a matter of finding other people who share their passion. It just so happens that my group of friends and my church colleagues are interested in helping serve school children who are experiencing homelessness. So I just invite them to share in that with me. Contacting the organization. I mentioned their website. Most organizations have different types of volunteer opportunities. We're not just in this for the money, but they do have fundraising opportunities. They also have different levels of service. So some organizations, like ones that serve the homeless population, will have, the more labor-intensive help build a house. Or they're also just, help us serve food to their guests. And you can work with their coordinator to set a date. They have their calendar right there. They're excited to work with people. And then the next step is to coordinate with the church calendar and make sure that we do have some openings on that day and then get that ball rolling. Advertising. I'm not a marketing major. I don't have the best advertising skills, but we have a lot of resources here at church, a lot of information channels that we can put out. So just at church, we have the all-member email blast, the weekly bulletins, verbal announcements before the service. Facebook seems to be the way to get the most information out as fast as possible. I think creating a, quote, Facebook event and having the church set that up and then inviting or somehow advertising that to the apartments in the surrounding community. I attend a lot of events during the week that I saw advertised on Facebook, and then I just click that I'm interested, and it gives me a daily reminder every time I log in, and that's sort of a way to stay on people's brains. Individual inquiries, I think the most effective way to get people to show up and volunteer is approaching them in person, because it's really hard to say no face to face. So those are just the ways that you would advertise. If anybody has more experience with marketing or has another idea, of course apply that, share that, and if it's effective, it's something that we can definitely implement. Inviting the community sort of goes hand in hand with advertising. Our goal is to create relationships with the local apartment tenants and with our community. So the more, and again, this sort of goes into public relations, which I don't have a ton of experience with, but the more involved that we can get the community and the more partnerships that we can build, the better we're going to be. That's what we're directed to do for ministry and for serving, and that's what God's word tells us that we should be doing, is serving the community and communicating with those folks. It opens a lot of channels of communication. This isn't a bait and switch, right? So we're not going to do a service project and hope that through that we're going to get new members or we're going to convert someone. That's not the goal. The goal is to just simply serve, and I think organically it eventually will become a two-way street, but we would like to continue serving regardless of whether or not we're converting someone. But it does provide an opportunity for us to talk about Jesus and to talk about our faith if the circumstances are appropriate, and to just show love and kindness, which is also a large part of what Jesus told us to do. And then the day of, you show up, right? Everything's already organized. You have your group of people, and you just sort of watch the Holy Spirit work. It's a really rewarding experience. So from a more selfish, self-serving perspective, it feels great to go and serve someone and to see someone smile because you were helping them. It's almost more of a reward for me personally than it is for the other people. So it's just something to think about, and I'm passionate about it. I'm excited about it. I hope this provides sort of a how-to guide on what it would look like. And it doesn't have to be just one individual. So if you have a family that is here in Charlotte and attends church or doesn't, and your family wants to sponsor an event. You know, if you have 4 people in your family, I don't expect you to host 4 different events. But if your family wanted to come together and sort of work as a group to host an event, and then that gives you, a broader range of friends, colleagues, community members to invite to that. It's just one way that we can sort of get this ball rolling. We haven't been as active with the outreaching part of service. Like I said, we have a lot of great things here on campus. So this is just our first idea. It's not the end all be all. We can adjust this as we move forward, see what works, use it as a learning experience. And then, but while we're learning, we're also providing a benefit to our community and building those relationships. So I pass out note cards at the beginning. I'd just like you to quickly go through and write down your name, list anything that you heard here that sort of pinged you or gave you a heart twinge, or something else that maybe I didn't list that you have a passion for. And then if you would please just list any past or current volunteer service that you have experience with. And this isn't, you're not signing up to lead a service project just because you're here and filling out the note card. It'll just give me an opportunity to see what everyone at Ascension is already participating in, and maybe that'll help drive the bus. And then indicate if you would be interested in leading a service project, yes, no, maybe. Again, it just gives me an opportunity to speak with you and follow up with you later on. It's not a commitment. So I'll give you just some time to do that.
Could I have a new card, please? I can use mine.
Yes.
Go ahead, bye.
Well, maybe this, and I pulled this off of your community page, but maybe it flops over into the needs page too. But
Okay.
it's always appeared to me, since these projects have started around us, that a neighborhood ambassador would be a leadership position that under your board.
Okay.
Somebody to get to know the managers over here and how we can.
Right, because I think right now Pastor Steve is sort of doing that under the umbrella, or he has at least gone and made contact one time and reached out. I'm not sure how often he has time to do that because I know they have a lot on their plates. But I agree that having a facilitator for the community would be a great addition to what we're trying to work on.
I don't know how these are built, but we could offer our building and services here for them to use.
Right,
If they wanted to have a group meeting of their tenants,
yes.
we've got a place they could do it.
And that's something that we have discussed is how to open up the campus, because we're doing a lot of renovations now, and how to open up the campus so that it benefits and serves the community just by existing. Because we have a lot of space and we have a lot of great stuff here that people could also use. So that's, if someone, like you said, needs to have a community meeting, there are other organizations that have weekly meetings that may not have space. and with our tenants having moved out, that would be a great opportunity. And those sort of community partnerships are not something that one person can do. It's not something that I can do under this umbrella because I can't do everything. And the other folks on leadership in that church can't do everything. So we need the congregation to sort of be invested with and brainstorm with us and help us out. So that's something that I will write down and make sure that we keep an ear to the ground on someone who might be a good fit for that position.
Well, then when the places are contacted, what they indicate is they'd be more than happy to advertise volunteer community projects. And the best one we had was 2 years ago at Oakhurst, was when we had like 100 and some people show up, about half of whom were church members.
Right.
And it was advertised, and it just went, forgive me, viral. No, it was huge. We had more than 100. Pardon me? Yeah, there was more than 100 people there, and I didn't know probably 2/3 of them. It just went. I think anything you do. Oakhurst is a good place because we have this partnership with Oakhurst, and I think we sort of let it drop. We haven't been real good
Are
about
you
it.
still there?
Yeah.
And
Well, we had a bunch of
They haven't
tours.
had a meeting yet for their partnership this year. Jill said she.
right, we've been communicating with
Yeah.
Oakhurst
Okay,
because
we'll blame Jill. She's the
But
president.
she-
they haven't had their community partnership meeting, which is something because they kept saying that they were trying to do a needs assessment on what their needs were, and then they would communicate that to all of their community partners and see how we can help them. And Mike and I have been waiting to hear back from her, and the date for that meeting just keeps getting pushed back.
John, didn't you tutor? Yeah, and you tutored?
Yeah, we did too.
We've had people doing it.
And
Right.
the last work day that we had there, we didn't have all that big of a
No.
turnout, but again, I think it went back to giving people enough notice.
Well, and like the first one that we had 2 years ago, Jill also was very instrumental in advertising it outside our particular place. So we had, it was a good thing because we had a mountain of mulch.
Yeah, I think a lot of the parents.
Yeah, a lot of parents, a lot of, that's a huge thing
It was brought to my attention that they have 3 book fairs over the course of the year, and they can use help from 8 to 4 during that week, but you have to be a CMS registered
Yeah.
volunteer. Is that another?
Yeah, that's something you have to be a CMS registered volunteer, which is pretty much walking in, getting your picture taken, showing your driver's license. It's, I know I'm on that list somewhere, but you have to be, for obvious reasons. They don't want just
Sure.
any,
You can sign up online.
yeah, they don't want just anybody walking into the school.
Because you're inside that thing.
Yeah, yeah. But it's pretty easy to do, you just walk into the office, they're all online. I think they want a picture of you.
Well, when you go in,
Okay.
you have to go through the desk there,
Yeah.
and your picture is on your badge, right?
Yeah, the prints out.
Really grainy picture, you can't recognize.
They take your picture right there.
Right. But anyway, that's something you need to do, there's nothing to it.
Right. And all of those are ideas, and it's just more than what one person can do on their own as far as setting that up and communicating all of it. Which is why I was hoping this workshop would sort of generate some ideas and sort of some passions and let you know how something like this can be accomplished. And like I said, this is just an outline for one way. I'm sure there are multiple ways that it can be done successfully. Are there any other questions of something that you saw that might have raised a question or an interest or a suggestion or linked to something else? No. Okay. Again, thanks for coming in on Saturday morning. I appreciate it. I know some of you also have some practice at 10 o'clock, so I think this is a good time that we can wrap up. And then also, I have donuts and fruit. Please feel free to take them off my hands, otherwise they're just going to be set out tomorrow morning for the church goers. But yeah, I appreciate you being here, and everyone should have my contact information. Let me know if you have any ideas. There's another part to this that I didn't put in the PowerPoint because it's not set in stone. There's been some discussion about having an org fair. So one of the reasons that I asked you to identify which organizations you've worked with is because we do want to support our members. So we're thinking about having an org fair where we invite 15, 20 of these nonprofits in our area, and I'll sort of try and plug them in so that we're getting the gambit of different needs, and then have it at a time when, like a Sunday afternoon after the 12 o'clock service, when people can sort of funnel out from church and hear what everyone has to say, and that might be a way to connect the people who are just primarily here on Sundays with an organization and just see where the interests of the congregation lie and what organizations might be a good fit for these partnership service projects that we'd like to do. So that'll be an opportunity for us to see different organizations in the community. They're always so willing and so excited about potential volunteers that they're more than willing to set up a table in a booth and to talk to people about what their organization does. So that's something that when the weather warms up, we'd like to have. But that doesn't preempt anyone who'd like to get started earlier on doing a project. It's just another resource that we're going to try and provide for the congregation. Okay, with that, I think we're closed, so thank you for coming. I appreciate it. I'll be hanging out here, cleaning up, etc. But you are released, so thanks.
One thing I'd just like to add, and I know the purpose of this is not to add people to our pews, but the church that I came out of in Rock Hill, they did an outreach program, and people saw what the church was doing, and they wanted to be a part of that, and be a part of it on a more regular basis. And today it's just standing room only with that church.
And that's the hope, right? The people see us out in our orange shirts, or we have drive-in shirts that float around, and they say, hey, who are these people who are so willing to serve the community? That's something I want to be a part of. And like I said, it's not a bait and switch where if you show up, we're going to hassle you to come to church. But it's just if you see us doing God's work and living a godly life and trying to support people doing good things in our community, that people like that. People want to be a part of that. So it just sort of a snowball effect, and that's what we hope to achieve. What's the name of your church in Rock Hill?
North Rock Hill.
How long are you there?
4 years, 5 years.
Are you looking down there to move?
No. No, won't move back to Rock Hill.
The lovely spot.
There's always open.
I don't think we can make the commute on Sundays. And already got the marshmallows on that, wherever we move, we will be coming to church here on Sunday.
What's our farthest commuting member every Sunday? Do we know who gets that title?
Probably Dave Burrows. Dave Burrows and Barbara Sue, both of them travel. That's probably about as far as anybody.
It's a good drive though.
Pardon me? Yeah.
Good drive.
40 miles.
Spend some time on 77 when it's not jammed.
When is that?
Well, not much anymore.
When is that specifically? 2 o'clock in the morning?
No, not even then, because they're doing construction on the 12th road. So I've left work around 11 or 12 at night, passing some like days. And I still sit in traffic because it funnels it all down to one lane. Oh my goodness.
But we have a lot of people who come 20 miles plus.
Yeah, I think for me it's 12, but
Sorry, I have no voice today. It's coming from Fort Mill.
it's a good drive.
Fort Mill is 15. Rock Hill is about 20. Well, it depends if you live in Fort Mill.
Yeah, Blessings come quite a ways.
Yeah.
Big one.
Lots of people, a lot of people, there's been a lot of
I
people.
know, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, Davidson,
But shit.
Well, oddly enough, you know, the apartments, first of all, the occupancy isn't great.
Sure.
What John is one across the street, like 50%.
It's less than 50, maybe.
And this is gonna be new, 800 more moving up, so go figure. But there's a shortage of housing in Charlotte, so I was told by a realtor.
The realtor told me yesterday that there's 100+ people moving to Charlotte every day.
Indian?
But she also said that the millennials have started building houses, or not building, but buying homes and building homes. And she said they were building houses with suites for their parents, so they would take care of the parents.
They also have, I
But she
think,
also said that she thought they were building the suites so that they could babysit the kids when they had children.
you guys see the granny pods?
Yeah. Yeah.
Where you can just, plunk your mother-in-law out in the backyard. They're adapted, so they have like the rail bars and the emergency buttons. So they're set up for people who are in declining health. But it gives them their own little miniature apartment with a living space and a kitchenette and a bedroom, and it's just like a build your own little tiny house in your backyard and just plunk it out there. I told my mom that's her future living.
I had my one grandmother lived with us, and the other grandmother lived next door, and my mother swore she would never live with her children after that experience. And she never did.
Yeah,
Not fun.
my in-laws insist that they are not going to live with any of us. We have offered to all of them that we will probably have space and more than welcome, but we'll see. But yeah, I definitely joke with my mother about having the granny pod.
Stay where you are, rent out rooms, you get big enough. Get a huge house, take out movers.
Well, I can say that in my neighborhood, houses turn over within 2 weeks. I mean,
It's interesting, my neighborhood, the ones that are for sale turn over 2 or 3 weeks. The ones for rent sit there forever, because I imagine the rent is for a 4-bedroom house, is probably insane.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
I don't
2,000
know,
bucks is pretty
you heard
low.
like Deborah's kids. They put their house on Airbnb, and every other weekend they end up moving in with Deborah and Scott because they're making so much money renting out their house for a weekend.
Yeah. Yep, it's crazy.
No, I don't want people writing.
No, but
I
it's
know,
a nice
right, yeah, it is,
It's not a bad
good.
thing.
No, it is.
Especially when you got parents you can live with for a while.
Yeah, somewhere to go.
We had a girl come to the church about 3 or 4 months ago, looking for a place to live. For the summer, she got a job at the Charlotte Knights, and she was looking for a place that she could live for. I don't know. Good Lutheran girl.
A lot of people are being priced out of their
Oh,
apartment.
yeah. Yeah, affordable housing is the problem. I mean, see, you go down like off, what's up, the roof and stuff, something not Sunset. Anyway, where all those like barrack-like buildings were on the south side, and they're tearing them all down and putting up these unaffordable apartments. So where do these people go? I have no idea where they go.
I'm not sure, just further out. It's the University of Chicago did the study about the different zones, the ripple zones with urban metropolitan areas, and folks just keep getting pushed further and further.
Very
out.
old geographic theory.
Yeah.
It's not true. Anyway, concentric. But the people that are being displaced on Remont, there's no way they can move to Huntersville or Harrisburg or whatever else. There's no way.
Right.
So what do they do? I don't know. Maybe they're homeless. I know that, another interesting statistic, Dwight Stein told me he belonged to the benevolent order of CPAs or something, group that whatever it is, it's a group of CPAs in the county. They collected or bought mattresses for children without mattresses. I think the number he shot at me was 1,700 that they supply for children that don't have mattresses. That's incredible. Super floor.
As far as remap goes, I love the buildings that went up, they had to accommodate for.
Is it gonna be Section 8? I don't even know.
They had to do so many apartments that they had to let those people live in that they're not gonna.
Well,
South Boulevard Park, the shelter.
That's
I don't
what I
know.
heard.
Well, you could be right, but that's not going to be, let's be realistic, it's not gonna be real good marketing for the other ones. If part of it's Section 8, it just
Yeah.
isn't going to be, it's just a fact.
This conversation has led me to think that since we're such a regional church, and we're talking about Davidson and Lake Wiley and all over the place, maybe there are currently people in our congregation who live there who are doing things on the side, volunteering that we don't even know anything about. It might
Right.
be interesting to poll the entire congregation of
how effective would an email poll be, right? Because I can set up a survey and we can email.
I think you might get better response if you did like they did last Sunday with the cards, having been the offering thing.
I don't know, I always had a really good response anytime I've done anything to the email here.
Well, we've had it with the
You
time
have,
and
yeah.
thing, and it hasn't.
My email response is a mixed bag of tricks personally. But yeah, and that's what we're thinking is there are all of these people who attend church who are doing great things independently. And what better way than to be able to support them in their endeavors and also support the community at the same time.
So I volunteer at the Ronald McDonald House, which is just over.
See, there's one right there.
Right, and like I mentioned, Keith does the homelessness prevention project, and I've got Bright Blessings, and I think everyone in here has probably done something in the last couple of years.
Yeah, Keith presented that, the legal aid, whatever it's called, the soup kitchen, probably been a year ago. I don't know what response he got from it, but I suppose a year ago.
But-
Yeah.
But putting out something, once you know who those folks are and what they do, putting a name attached to the service, and then people can contact them, say, I think, I'd like to help you with the panel house or something.
Right, and when we have the org fair, we're
I'd be
hoping,
willing to come and speak about it.
right, we're hoping to invite organizations that are already linked with one of our members. So that we already know that people are passionate about it. So we at least know we've got one, right? Instead of me just inviting a random. We already know that we at least have one person who is interested in that and has experience with it.
I think it is, so.
Yeah.
SPCA.
You had the tagline on your email, rescue is my favorite. Braden knows, like, she's my soul person.
I volunteer for both of them.
Yeah.
At my last church, I already talked to Pastor about this, sorry, I cannot tell I was gonna go, but.
You're okay.
We had, Lutheran Church Charities does a comfort dog program. So at my last church, we had one. It's hard because each dog is $12,000, so the church has to raise that money to get that dog. But we've done so many awesome things with that dog, like nursing homes, deployments, like they went down to, where the shooting was in Florida. And, I do all the social media pages for our dogs still in Minneapolis. But it's just so awesome, like even though now that I'm not a handler for that dog anymore, and I'm not really part of the team, I still see everything they do because they send it to me so I can post on social. But, it's a really cool ministry, and you get to go to all those places, like the homeless shelters, the, town house, like all those places.
Yeah, there's so many ways that we can connect with the docs. It's just a matter of sort of getting the ball rolling.